Davos has always been about building international cooperation and coordination. Davos is the place where leaders who otherwise wouldn't even speak to each other engage in debates. Davos is the place where conflicts are averted, business is started, disputes are finished. Davos is the place where government, business, and civil society join forces.
I took out all the seats and away I went. It's a right old banger and the chassis bent. It's got a great big peace sign across the back, and most of the windows have been painted black. The windshield's cracked, it's a bugger to drive. It starts making smoke over 35. It's a psychedelic nightmare with a million leaks. It's home sweet home to some sweet-ass freaks. Slow down, itinerant child. The road is full of danger. Slow down, itinerant child. There's no more welcome stranger. Soon I was rumbling through the morning fog with my long-haired children and my one-eyed dog, with the trucks and the buses and the trailer vans, my long throw horns playing Steely Dan. We straggled out for miles along the Beggar's Hill. Then the word came down that we'd lost old Bill. You can bet your boots I'm coming when the times are hard. That's why they keep my dossier at Scotland Yard. Slow down, itinerant child. You're still accelerated. Slow down, itinerant child. The boys in blue are waiting. Itinerant child, don't do what you're doing. Itinerant child, you better slow down.
Well, first I introduced myself. I'm Orit Gadesh. The order there is a little misleading. I'm the chairman of Bain & Company, and I welcomed you to the session on how to survive the 21st century.
The AI revolution might create unprecedented inequality, not just between classes, but also between countries. We are already in the midst of an AI arms race, with China and the USA leading the race, and most countries being left far, far behind. Unless we take action to distribute the benefits and power of AI between all humans, AI will likely create immense wealth in a few high-tech hubs, while other countries will either go bankrupt or will become exploited data colonies. Now, we aren't talking about a science fiction scenario of robots rebelling against humans. We are talking about far more primitive AI, which is nevertheless enough to disrupt the global balance. When somebody in San Francisco or in Beijing knows the entire medical and personal history of every politician, every judge, and every journalist in your country, including all their sexual escapades, all their mental weaknesses, and all their corrupt dealings, will it still be an independent country? Or will it become a data colony? When you have enough data, you don't need to send soldiers in order to control a country. Alongside inequality, the other major danger we face is the rise of digital dictatorships that will monitor everyone all the time. This danger can be stated in the form of a simple equation, which I think might be the defining equation of life in the 21st century. B times C times D equals R, which means biological knowledge multiplied by computing power multiplied by data equals the ability to hack humans, R. If you know enough biology and you have enough computing power and data, you can hack my body and my brain and my life, and you can understand me better than I understand myself. You can know my personality type, my political views, my sexual preferences, my mental weaknesses, my deepest fears and hopes. You know more about me than I know about myself. And you can do that not just to me, but to everyone. A system that understands us better than we understand ourselves can predict our feelings and decisions, can manipulate our feelings and decisions, and can ultimately make decisions for us. Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. That's what we are. The power to hack human beings can, of course, be used for good purposes, like providing much better healthcare. But if this power falls into the hands of a 21st century Stalin, the result will be the worst totalitarian regime in human history, and we already have a number of applicants for the job of 21st century Stalin. When everybody has to wear a biometric bracelet which constantly monitors your blood pressure, your heart rate, your brain activity, 24 hours a day. You listen to a speech on the radio by the great leader, and they know what you actually feel. You can clap your hands and smile, but if you're angry, they know you'll be in the gulag tomorrow morning. And if we allow the emergence of such total surveillance regimes, don't think that the rich and powerful in places like Davos will be safe. The higher you are in the hierarchy, the more closely you will be watched. So it's in the interest of all humans, including the elites, to prevent the rise of such digital dictatorships. Because as humans will rely on AI to make more and more decisions for us, authority will shift from humans to algorithms. And this is already happening. Already today, billions of people trust the Facebook algorithm to tell us what is new. The Google algorithm tells us what is true. Netflix tells us what to watch, and the Amazon and Alibaba algorithms tell us what to buy. In the not-so-distant future, similar algorithms might tell us where to work and whom to marry, and also decide whether to hire us for a job, whether to give us a loan, and whether the central bank should raise the interest rate. And if you ask why you will not give a loan, or why the bank didn't raise the interest rate, the answer will always be the same. Because the computer says no.
Computer says no. Excuse me.
And since the limited human brain lacks sufficient biological knowledge, computing power, and data, humans will simply not be able to understand the computer's decisions. So even in supposedly free countries, humans are likely to lose control over our own lives and also lose the ability to understand public policy. Almost every country will say, hey, we don't want to develop killer robots or to genetically engineer human babies. We are the good guys. But we can't trust our rivals not to do it. So we must do it first.
And you know, I was reminded when Yuval was talking of, I mentioned it to Yuval before, of two books that were written in the first half of the 20th century that kind of predicted humanity's future. One was George Orwell's 1984, where the population was controlled by this fearsome dictatorship. And surveillance was everywhere. The thought police was going after, they knew what you were thinking and they were going to persecute you. And that's kind of like the digital dictatorship that Yuval talked about. The other book, which in some ways is more scary, is Huxley's Brave New World, where by contrast, the population is bred or programmed to want what the world state is willing to provide them. So they buy what the algorithm tells them that they should want. They do what the algorithm tells them they should be happy doing. In a way, it's this naive utopia that you talked about.
But in the end, let's not be too scary about this, because if we start to regulate this too heavily, then that will immediately pose the question, who is controlling the regulator? Because that man or woman will have a lot of power.
You know, the AI revolution is barely an infant. You know, 5 years ago, nobody talked about AI except for a few scientists. And what we saw in the 2016 elections with Cambridge Analytica, that's nothing. I mean, we still haven't passed the crucial watershed. The real watershed is the union of AI with biometrics. At present still, the vast majority of data being mined and people being hacked, it's not based on biological knowledge, on my biological data. It's based on where I click, where I go, what I buy, and things like that. It's still outside the body. The real line in the sand is when biometric sensors become ubiquitous, and it's happening, and the data starts coming from within the body. And they can access your heart, your brain, not just your credit card. And again, AI it's nowhere near its full capacity.
Well, we know that people start to cooperate when they face a common enemy. And you know, my question to both of you, from slightly different points of view, how do we get a real or perceived common enemy out of those real challenges that face us? And you gotta take a step in technology, make a huge difference, because when you think about the future, those who control 5G or make 5G will actually control all the infrastructure on which the technology that we're talking about is going to be.
What is a future shaped by a technology arms race going to look like? No massive introductions needed. Ring Cheng-fei, founder and CEO of Huawei, the world's largest manufacturer of telecoms equipment, second largest manufacturer of smartphones, perhaps most importantly for this conversation, blacklisted by the US and Exhibit A of the technology arms race. AI and biotech could undermine the idea of individual freedom, making free markets and liberal democracy obsolete. Democracy, he went on to say, in its current form cannot survive the merger of biotech and infotech. So would it be fair to say that you think a huge amount is at stake in this, and why?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, on one level, the more shallow level, it would be a repeat of the 19th century Industrial Revolution, when the leaders in industry basically had the power to dominate the entire world, economically and politically. And it can happen again with the AI revolution and biotech revolution of the 21st century. And we are already beginning. I understand the current arms race as an imperial arms race, which may lead very soon to the creation of data colonies. You don't need to send the soldiers in if you have all the data from a particular country. But on a much broader and deeper, from a deeper perspective, I think it really is going to shape the future of humanity and the future of life itself, because the new technologies will soon give some corporations and governments the ability to hack human beings. There is a lot of talk about hacking computers, smartphones, emails, bank accounts, but the really big thing is hacking human beings. To hack human beings, you need a lot of biological knowledge, a lot of computing power, and especially a lot of data. If you have enough data about me and enough computing power and biological knowledge, you can hack my body, my brain, my life. You can reach a point when you know me better than I know myself. And once you reach that point, and we are very close to that point, then democracy, the free market as we have, and actually all political systems, also authoritarian regimes, we have no idea what happens once you pass that point. And I think with some good reason that you can win an AI arms race. And that's very dangerous, because then the temptation to win the race and dominate the world is much bigger. So that's...
I'm going to really put you on the spot there. Do you think that is a mindset more in Washington or in Beijing?
I would say Beijing and San Francisco. I think in Washington, they don't fully understand.
I recently published an article in The Economist. I also cited and I also wrote about electronics chipset and their combination with biotech and what would it mean. And that line was deleted by The Economist. Maybe that's too controversial to them. And when they referred the article back to me, I agreed to take that down. I know I'm giving them a hard problem.
The Defence Secretary sacked after his boss decided Gavin Williamson was behind the leak of classified information from the most secret meeting in Whitehall. In her letter, the Prime Minister said there was compelling evidence suggesting his responsibility as she asked him to leave her government. Blamed about a leak from the sacrosanct National Security Council over plans to allow Chinese company Huawei to build Britain's 5G mobile network. He refuted it last week.